Welcome back to BaldHeaded Metal, guys. My name is Joseph. Today, I want to do another Bellacore reaction, but this time around, we're actually going to do the whole album, Vessels. We're going to go through song by song. The only two songs I'm not going to react to is an Ember's Arc and The Smoke of Many Fires, which I've actually already done reactions to on this channel. So I'm just going to skip it so I don't do basically the same song twice. And if you want to see those, I'm going to make sure to leave a link down below for you so you can check it out. But another reason why I'm doing a full album today is it's exciting, actually. I'm going to get to interview Steve from Bellacore on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, and post the interview for you guys next week. So I also want to do a shout out to all of you guys to let me know if you have any questions for the band that you would like to ask them, because I'm compiling a bunch of questions from all the fans, from all the comments I'm getting, to create an interesting interview that you guys would want to see. But without any further ado, let's go down the whole album, starting with this kind of an intro to the album called Luma. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. I don't know what to expect, but I did like both those songs very, very much. You know what's interesting, even from this intro and from the two songs that I've heard, I feel like they have a unique way of writing music that I instantly connected with, which I thought wasn't perhaps instantly catchy or something you can latch onto with the first second, but you can't help but appreciate how talented they are. And the way they just write riffs together, I gave, I think, kind of comparisons to like Reincarnation and other bands as well. And it was actually really cool, as I was doing a little research on which album I should do a reaction to, that they were named, the whole name Bellacore is named after a fantasy character from the Warhammer Fantasy universe, which makes it that much cooler to me because I'm a nerd when it comes to video games. I like fantasy novels, I like fantasy TV show, movies, and everything like that. So I'm on board with these guys right away. They seemed like my kind of people to chat with. What an intro. That was a really nice intro. They right away kind of showed on display what you're gonna get from this album, but then the second song is Ember's Arc. So we're gonna skip directly to the third song and get right into that. Now the third song being Withering Strands. This is going to be obviously the first song that full first song that I haven't heard from them yet, as Ember's Arc is something I've already done before, which I quite enjoyed. I thought it was a really, really good song. But anywho, we just started with this reaction. Let's get right into it. You know, honestly, I think putting this band into one bucket of death metal is almost not fair because I feel like there's so much more to this band. There's melodic death metal, there's some like progressive rock stuff in there. There's so much going on just within the 3 songs that I've heard in the beginning of this one, that it's, I think, unfair to put them in this one box, which is why I think there's such an appreciation among fans for this particular band, but they're still kind of getting the attention of the more bigger audience in comparison to maybe some other melodic death metal bands that I've reacted to on this channel. Wow, the way they switch rhythms is so skillful. You know, if you can even tell, like, I have sometimes hard time getting into the rhythm of the song because they're just, there's such a weird way of the way they compose the music and so masterfully switch rhythms that are completely different from one another. And it's more apparent to me in this song than even other songs. And look, I barely play guitar. I self-taught myself for 2 years. So I played like on the rhythm level, I was pretty good, but anything like solo wise or any kind of more intricate melodies I wasn't able to do. But I can see it that there's drumming wise, guitar wise, the bass wise, what they're doing here, I think is actually quite intricate and quite complex. It might seem simple on the surface, and how they keep a melody throughout this song so far, I think is just absolutely masterful. I think, typically speaking, I'll be honest with you, I don't get into bands like this very easily. They typically take me multiple listens to get into. For some reason with Bellacore, I'm just getting into it very quickly, and I can appreciate it very quickly. I want to rewind it. Really love this, guys. I really love this. I might be Wolfheart, this band, Insomnium. There's a couple bands you guys introduced me on this channel to that I am super thankful to you guys for, because this is quality metal. And I haven't had a band from Australia in quite a while. I've had a couple that I was listening to. I don't remember by the name of like right off the top of my head, but there's a couple. But this has to be the best one I've heard from coming out from Australia. I'm just gonna rewind just a little bit so we can be on the same page. there's one thing I will say about melodic death metal, and I would say more about melodic death metal because they tend to be more atmospheric and melancholic and kind of take their time with their music to build certain moods and feelings. Is that you have to, I believe you have to have patience because they're not immediately catchy. They're not immediately want to capture your attention. They want to build and deserve certain feelings that they are getting. So sometimes songs, for example, this is almost an 11-minute song. Some people can kind of lose their attention span listening to this, and I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it has to be for a more seasoned listener, not necessarily a more seasoned metalhead, just a more seasoned and enthusiastic music listener because it really requires intention. I believe like Tool is the same way. Like I was listening to Tool Fear Inoculum, and I think it's a fantastic album, but I have friends who kind of dismissed it because the songs are too long. If the music is good, I don't care if the song is half an hour or 2 minutes, and it just requires. I believe this requires a certain level of patience of how they're building their melodies, and it's in such a beautiful way. I think so far this might be my favorite song actually from them. And Smoke of Many Fires, I really like that song. I like Ember's Arc, but I really like Smoke of Fires. So it's gonna be like a battle of which song is the best one because it seems like it's just gonna be a top-notch album. And they don't stick around on one rhythm for too long or one melody for too long. That's another thing that I find quite impressive. Jesus, it's like it sounds. I'm only saying positive things about this band, but I really don't have anything negative to say. There's certain bands I've criticized, let's say this week, that I've gotten a lot of flack for because I don't know, I wasn't enjoying them this much. But this is like there's literally nothing bad to say because of how good the musicianship is. Maybe the production quality could have been better, but that they're also a rising band, and especially somebody like a melodic death metal band, they might not have all the production money to produce like the best sounding album. So that's something that can be forgiven. That was very true of early death metal and black metal, where there was some really quality stuff, but unfortunately it was lower production because they didn't have the budget for it. And I know they're having a new album coming out very, very soon, which I will be checking out, and I'm sure the production is going to be just so much better. Look at that switch. They have more in common with like Tiamat and Theater of Tragedy and Sentence and all these other bands than they do with a typical death metal band, I think. Green Carnation, stuff like that, because of just how they're weaving in their melodic nature with something that's heavier, along with very progressive elements. It's I think it's rare to see that with a younger band. Usually, I feel like it takes some skill to build up to. Like even look at Insomnium, where they were good in the beginning, but they were more, they were less refined. And as they got older, they were able to refine their sound into this masterful, absolutely masterful sound. And it seems like Bellacore basically had it from the beginning, from their roots, is what they were at, and perhaps they were just something that they were interested in, kind of composing music this way. I know Opeth was very similar in that sense. Setting the mood, building it up. Sure, it's gonna go into another element. Oh, that bass. This is what I mean. You saw how they transitioned from that very soothing, very soft sound into this kind of more upbeat, fast rhythm. It's very skillfully done. I feel like a lot of bands, when they're composing music, they take cool moments and cool riffs, and they think, how can we combine them and make them sound cool? Whereas for me personally, it seems like this is a natural progression and written as one song throughout. They're not just coming up with cool sounds that they want to plug into a song, which makes it flow a lot more naturally and smoothly, almost like an orchestra, something that Beethoven or Wagner would play in their music. At least that's the way it seems to me. I could be completely wrong. Well, whenever I'm reacting, right, I'm just telling you exactly what I'm feeling in the moment and just blurring it out. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, sometimes we just have a conversation about it. You know, just the nature of it.
Rise from tides, report as a forefather fell. With the passing of giants, the sun could not tell that life would come quickly, and indeed as it gorged, transformed by the day. As a fool unforged,
I wonder if there's lyrics. No. be really interested to ask Steve kind of what the inspirations were for this particular band, because I have a feeling I might be close with what I said with some of the bands that I've mentioned. But I'm sure I'm also going to be surprised. Maybe there's elements that I'm not seeing that they're implementing here that maybe you guys can point out. And yeah, I don't. I predict this band, when everything kind of restores a little bit back to normal and touring resumes and they just keep growing with a new record, I only see this band growing, to be honest. And I'm typically not this positive on any band that I react to, because I typically like things and I like them, but when something really resonates with me, which is kind of rare, it's been, I think, Wolfheart really resonated with me. This particular band has really resonated with me. I tend to be just like overwhelmingly positive. It's almost like I'm an ambassador for Bellacore now. And I have a feeling that the new album, without even hearing it yet, is going to be very different. They don't seem to be happy to staying in one place. Looks like it's building up to a new song. Yeah, that was a phenomenal song, and it didn't feel like 10 minutes. I'm typically one of those people that like, oh, when's the song gonna end? My brother knows me as a person who typically, I can lose my attention span, despite what I've said. I don't mind if the song is long or short. I typically lose my attention span for long songs, but if they really capture me, yeah, the time kind of flies away, right? Was one of the main arguments I know among fans for the new Iron Maiden album, is that the last 3 songs were really long, and a lot of people didn't like that. They kind of hoped that Steve Harris would write shorter songs, whereas for me, those 3 songs felt like 2 minutes. So much so, I listened to that 81-minute album twice in one day because of how good I thought the album was. But I mean, to each his own. Everybody interprets music differently. Some people like long songs, some people like short songs. To me, it's just as long as it captures my attention, I don't care. I'm actually going to get to interview 2 bands this weekend, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be Bellacore, and right after that, I'm going to get to also interview Melekesh, which is anybody who's seen me make my top videos of what I think are top black metal or my top favorite bands of all time. Melekesh is on that list. So I'm quite excited to actually be doing that as well, which is actually thanks to one of you fans who reached out to Melekesh and showed him my video. I want to thank you guys for that as well. It's really, really cool. Now let's get into what the song is called, Roots to Sever. Right off the bat, what I do like is the inclusion of piano being front and center and really part of the music. Where I feel like in some bands, the piano seems to be more in the background, just building some of the atmosphere, almost like a bass. Where I feel like a piano is an instrument that works very well, personally. I think it works very well front and center, along as one of the main instruments, to not just build an atmosphere or build a certain rhythm, but can be an integral part of the whole song, and I really like how it sounds here so far. it's surprising how different each song is. You know, like there's bands that kind of use certain rhythms or certain elements that cross over from one album to the other, or which I wouldn't know honestly because this is the only album I've listened to so far. But like certain songs carry over some certain ideas. It sounds similar. Every song is completely different so far, which is I think it's quite cool actually. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time even picking a favorite song, so I'm just gonna let go and enjoy the ride. You know, I obviously hear a lot of Opeth in here too, which Opeth's Blackwater Park is probably one of my top death metal, melodic death metal bands, like albums ever out there. I might not like all of their discography, but I really like that album. But you know what I also hear in here, at least to my ears, is Pink Floyd. I would credit Pink Floyd to be one of the most experimental and really loosen out their bands ever, because they really just like there was no formula to them. They tried whatever the hell they wanted, however the hell they wanted, and I feel like so many bands got influenced by Pink Floyd. I think like Tool, for example, for 100% sure they were influenced by Pink Floyd, and yeah, I'm really liking this. I'm surprised. I know Australia is big on metal in general, but there's, for example, there's not as many bands coming out of there as some of the European bands, which are, you know, much smaller in size. So it's interesting. Yeah, I would want to explore the whole Australian metal scene as well, see what other bands there are there. I think, yeah. Anywho, let's get back into it. I was trying to think of another band.
Unto the stones.
I really love that whole transition. I kind of lost that. I forgot I was doing a reaction for a second. I really got into it. Wow. Wow. Really don't have anything else to say but wow. the song? Oh. Oh, a nice kind of smooth part kicks in. Again, build up the atmosphere and this kind of melancholic sound. They have to be classically trained. They have to be classically trained musicians because they just understand composition so well. You know, I've criticized some bands on this channel which I feel like were simplistic in their sound because they know how to play instruments and they'll write songs on a certain level, and they were never going to be able to rise above that level. At least that's how I felt when I did that kind of reaction. But here, there's a certain level of maturity already in this music, which I think will stand the test of time. And I think that's something I haven't talked about in this channel, is that there's bands, I feel like they might be cool in the moment, and you might like them in the moment, but they're going to be forgotten, I believe. I mean, I know it's a harsh thing to say out loud, but they'll be forgotten in the pantheon of other bands. And then there's bands that are always going to stick out like a sore thumb because they did something different, they pushed a little bit further, or their music is just so undeniable. Even if it's something like, for example, AC/DC, the fellow Australians, that seems to be very simple music, but for its time, it was just so timeless and so well written and so catchy and so addictive. They're always going to stand the test of time. And bands who try to copy their sound now, they're just never going to get that level. They're never going to be able to rise to that level because it's either been done before in that same exact manner, or they don't add their own kind of flair to it. And I feel like here, there's just so much added. They definitely, you can see their inspirations and their appreciation for older bands, but they're not stopping there. And it's not necessarily reinventing the death metal or melodic death metal genre, but it's injecting it with so much, I would say, life, and I would say a distinct sound that I haven't heard very much before, which will, I think will make Be'lakor stand out. No matter what their level of popularity will be, I think they'll always stand out. A really good song. Yeah, but let's move on to the next one. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, the next song we'll be reacting to is going to be Whelm. And I do think that right now I'm in the right mindset to listen to this kind of music. I don't always am, particularly, because I listen to a lot of music on the go. And sometimes I just want to kind of pump me up, or during a workout. For example, I wouldn't be listening to Be'lakor during a workout. I'd want something that's more like Slayer or Exodus to really kind of get my blood flowing. But when in moments like that, when I can sit down and slow down, let my brain settle, this is something special. I don't imagine I'm gonna feel any different about any other songs. But anywho, let's get right into it. Let's see what we got here. We'll do a review right at the end too, to talk about how I just felt about the album overall, what I rate it. But I have a feeling that you guys kind of know where this is going. Something I noticed, but I haven't said yet. I also like that the image, if you look at it with the fire, it looks like a bear's head. The fire is his mouth, nose here, and it looks like a bear. I'm guessing it has some kind of significance to what the lyrics are about. Sorry guys, I didn't pull up the lyrics. I probably should have, but typically speaking, I know everybody interprets music differently. I like to first experience the music. I usually don't even know what a band looks like. A lot of people think like I'll judge a band based on how they look. Most of the time when I discover bands on my own, I don't even look what they look like. I don't look at their music videos. I don't look at their live music. I just listen to their music, mainly because I don't have time. And if I get captured by the music and the vocal performance, then I kind of dive deeper into their lyrics to see what their music is about, what they sing about, what they talk about. Then if I get even further than that, like, oh my God, I really love what I'm hearing here, then I have to see the music videos, then I have to see everything about them. I have to find out their history, where they come from. But I know for other people, the background of a musician is as important as the music itself. And of course, the lyrical content, for some people, it's very much closer to heart. We all just kind of take in music very, very differently. As a matter of fact, you can let me know, how do you approach your music discovery and the way you listen to music overall? Let me know down below in the comments. I have to show this to my brother. He's gonna love this album. He eats music like this up. It's kind of his favorite place to go to power metal, and it's very, very melodic, very beautiful melodies that they're creating here. I'm gonna shove this down his throat today. Yeah, my only gripe so far with what I've heard is the production. For example, the guitars sound good, and his vocals sound good, but the drums seem a little bit muted. I would like for them to be more impactful in the music, and maybe the bass a little bit, have it come forward just a little bit more. But the piano sounds really nice. The guitars sound really nice and clean. I love that clean tone. I wonder if live they sound this clean as well. I suspect they write the music very collaboratively. Because I know 3 members of the band. I believe it's the vocalist, I think he's vocalist slash guitarist, the bass player, and the piano, the guy who does piano, which is Steve, which is the one I get to interview. I feel like they just write the music collaboratively. There's just so many different elements and so much in display. I don't see. Maybe there is one person who writes the whole music. For example, Melkesh, I know Ashmendi, or his real name Murat. They write. He writes the music by himself. Yeah, it'll be an interesting question to ask. Again, I know I've said in the beginning, just to remind you guys, let me know what questions would you want me to ask Be'lakor, particularly Steve. I know people asked about the way they write their music, what their inspirations from, when they're gonna go on tour, things of that sort. But about the band itself, anything else of the sort, please let me know down below with all the questions that you might have. It'll just make the interview that much more interesting, right? Oh, nice acoustic guitar, very nice. This album sounds very inspired. You can tell they sat down with just so much creativity to make this album. There was a criticism of Senjutsu, the Iron Maiden album, that it seems like they're just phoning it in for another. It's like it's work to them at this point. And I don't think it's fair to say that about Iron Maiden. I think they had their heyday. I think they've produced their best albums already. And I think Senjutsu is a great album. It just might not be on the level of Power Slave or Fear of the Dark or Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. It's not maybe on that level, or even Brave New World is probably my favorite new album, because there were moments of inspiration for this band. Metallica, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, great inspiration in those albums. And I feel like every band has their moment where they produce their best material. Whether because they had a fall off and they came back, with the case of Exodus, whether they just went to a certain degree where they understood the sound of their band and it took them a while, which I believe is Melkesh. It took them 2 or 3 albums to get there. Whether it's Be'lakor, where in this beginning of their band, which is, I think, this is their 3rd album, I believe, they're just on fire. They have this creative juices flowing, and they have something to say with their music, and it shows. And you can see when a band starts either slowing down, or they're still very creative and still create great music, but they're never able to reach the same heights. Again, another one, Megadeth. Rust in Peace, it just can't get any better from Megadeth. For me, after Rust in Peace, Megadeth, if anything, kind of went slowly down. Doesn't mean it was bad music, and I still like it and I still enjoy it. Even albums like Cryptic Writings, I like that album, but Rust in Peace was just absolutely phenomenal album. And I haven't listened to the other albums yet to see which one it's going to be, but I believe these first couple albums for this band, and perhaps maybe their whole career, who knows, there are anomalies who are just amazing throughout their whole career. Bolt Thrower for me, every single album was phenomenal. Those ones, Loyal, if not their best album, was, so we'll see how this band grows, but this just sounds so inspired. And it's very, I can't see anybody not liking this. Honestly, if you're into this genre of heavy metal and you like the growling vocals, I really can't see somebody not liking this. I'll put it like that. This is what I mean by the piano is front and center. It's an important integral part of their music, and it just makes it sound so good and gives it that extra, I would say, juice. That's it for this song. Yeah, this was really, really good. But yeah, it's gonna kind of fade out slowly out of the song. Let's move on to the next one. The next song we're gonna do is a Thread Dissolves. And this is a shorter song. It's like almost 3 minutes. Yeah, so far, I mean, you kind of guys already know it might be the best album. I know it's not a new album, but it might be the best album I've heard this year that I've been exposed to, new album that I've listened to. This might be the best thing that I've heard this year. Of course, their new album's coming out. Who knows? Maybe I'm going to listen to the new album and I'll like it more. I'm definitely going to be diving deeper into this band more and more. But for you guys, for the sake so you guys can get more reactions, I'll make sure I'll do just a lot more reactions to this band because of how much I'm enjoying it. I know I don't get as many views on Bellacore as I would on something like Nightwish, but I typically don't look at view count. Of course, I try to balance it, have something that's going to give me more views, something that's going to give me more enjoyment. There's some bands I react to, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to like this. Well, let's see what happens, and then I'll actually get a lot of negative reactions, which what this week was Bandmade. I had a reaction to this band in a particular way that fans weren't very happy with, but I still got a lot of views on it, and I actually got subscribers from it as well. I noticed one thing with myself, and this is true of where I work as well. I'm a personal trainer, and it's if I'm 100% genuine who I am as myself and do what I enjoy and how I like to do it and present myself in a truthful way, people gravitate towards that because we can chat and communicate, agree and disagree on all kinds of things. Whereas if I try to pretend just to get likes, it's noticeable. I don't like watching reactions. The reason I started reaction channels because I enjoyed reactions. I don't like reactions that are fake. So I will do bands even if they don't give me thousands of views because this needs to be seen by other people as well. And maybe if I do a reaction to it and one of you guys never heard of Bellacore and you discover it that way, that's my way of to give back to Bellacore for using their music on my reactions. But let's get that whole side note to the side. Let's get to the music. Another thing I want to point out, I think I've said this maybe on the Smoke of Many Fires, is that there's certain bands that I believe are progressive for the sake of being progressive. I know I've said this about Ginger, and kind of fans didn't agree with me, and they felt completely the opposite way. But there's certain bands I believe They get so involved with being, we need to be progressive or need to at least that's, you get your own points of view for wherever you get them. You can be right, you can be wrong, but you can't deny how you feel. And there's other bands who just naturally flow. To me, Bellacore naturally flows, and everything is where exactly it should be. At least that's how I feel. And I know it might invite criticism and it might invite disagreements, and we can have that conversation down below in the comments. But yeah, it just flows. It's like a symphony. Like I said, I've mentioned before, it's like a symphony. I know Opeth, the guy who writes for music for Opeth, he studied classical music, which is why he said when he wrote music, it was very much akin to classical music. Or somebody like Haggard, which had Renaissance classical music playing along with their heavy metal, which again had that kind of, he had that classical training. And I think it's apparent to me that there's a certain level of skill here as well, a traditional learned skill for Bellacore that is their shining example why they're this good. And at the same time, they don't lose their emotional counterpart. Yeah, it's more of like an instrumental, a transition, right, into the next song. That was cool. That was a really, really cool transition. I think this is going to be the last song that I haven't heard because I have to think this Grasping Light song reaction. There's going to be a Smoke of Many Fires, which I already done the reaction to. Like I said, I'm going to post the links down below for you guys so you can check it out. And after that, we'll do a review. But anywho, let's get right into the song. Let's see what we got here. You know what's actually kind of interesting, it's noticeable in this song especially, is that the vocals, despite being growling, they're actually enunciated very, very well, which is cool. I guess that's maybe a particular skill. You know, some people can do it, some people can't do it. Maybe it's just more practice. I don't know what it is, but I think it sounds nice. this album is on the longer side, right? Um, there's a lot of music here that they kind of jammed into it. Because most of the songs are actually quite long and intricate, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels short. I know I skipped 2 songs, but even with those 2 songs skipped, it feels very short, which I think is a sign that I'm really enjoying it. I like that build up. You know it's gonna go. Nice acoustic guitar. I would even say this would be a great rock album if he sang. It's almost borderline not metal, you know, if you know what I mean. There's only a couple of really heavy parts really that kind of differentiate, but I would say there's so much rock, so many progressive rock elements in here, which I think kind of enhance the music. For some reason, there's been a couple of reactions that I've done that made people assume that I only like metal, which is not true. I like classic rock, I like techno, I like rap, more old school rap than the new school rap. I essentially like all music genres for the exception of house music. I'll prefer country music to house music. House music is trash music to me. I just don't like it. Never liked it. There's not much for me to like. But I can find something in every single genre that I've enjoyed. I haven't been researching modern rock groups as much, mainly because I've just kind of grown up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s era. But metal is something I've been following very, very closely because it was a natural progression for me from hard rock into heavy metal, and especially as a young person with a lot of aggression and wanting to take your aggression out when I would go to concerts and mosh and all that kind of stuff, it kind of made sense for how I progressed to heavy metal. Yeah, there is no bad songs on this album. There's a couple songs I like more than others, but I'll point that out in the review once we get to it. But there's literally not a bad song on this album. They're all great. nice transition. You know, I expected something different, to be honest, with a name like Be'lakor, which is named, you know, after that Warhammer fantasy character. And I'm not a big Warhammer fan. I've played some games. I kind of know the general importance of it, but I've never been like a tabletop fan or a Dungeons and Dragons fan. It's more towards if it's in a video game format or in a fantasy film format, something like that, you know? Uh, but I kind of expected a more cheesiness to it, almost like Blind Guardian, or something like Bolt Thrower was also kind of unexpected. But you know, their lyrics are mostly focused on war. And here there's a fantasy character name for the band, which I thought that was cool, maybe something they've grown up with. But there seems to be just this kind of, I don't know. I don't want to make it sound bad in terms of other bands, but there's a certain level of maturity here, which I quite appreciate. And there we go, guys. That was a reaction to all the songs. Now let's get into the review. Now that I've reacted to the whole album, I said, like, again, for those people that might have not watched the full reaction but are going directly into the review, I've already done reactions of Ember's Arc and Smoke of Many Fires previously on my channel. I'll link it down below for you guys. And again, for those who are not watching the reaction, I am going to get to interview Be'lakor this Saturday. So I want questions from you guys and the fans that you would want me to ask Steve about their pianist, that anything particular you want to know. And now let's get into the review. This is a little bit hard to do because a lot of people don't realize this. I don't like to cut my videos many times. I kind of get my thoughts together and just one shot get them out to exactly what I feel, which sometimes can be a very raw reaction, and some people might not agree with it. Sometimes it's exactly what you want to hear, whatever it is. I'm just trying to be 100% genuine. But this one's not going to be hard. I don't think I have to think about it very long. It's a phenomenal album. I think Vessels, from beginning to the end, is a phenomenal album. It's this combination of Opeth, Theater of Tragedy, Tiamat, Green Carnation, or like even like some very progressive rock like Pink Floyd and Tool. There's so many elements at play and so masterfully woven together that I think, without even listening to their other albums, I think it's a classic on its own. And if you're into those genres of rock and heavy metal, you have to check this out. I can't see anybody not liking this because they're so masterfully able to progress songs to different elements. They don't stick around on one piece for too long. They always do something interesting and different. Music flows very nicely. It never feels like there's an inserted riff or inserted melody that they did because they thought it was cool. Everything has a purpose and structure and flow. Not to repeat myself again, and has really flow to it. And a couple songs that really stood out to me, I thought were standout songs, was Smoke of Many Fires, The Withering Strands, and Roots to Sever. I thought were just phenomenal songs. I really, really liked those songs, but I liked every single song. There wasn't there were moments in the songs, maybe I thought like one element might have been slightly longer than it needed to be, but then again, it's such a minor nitpick, it doesn't matter because everything else was just so good. And I said this already in the reaction, again, for those that didn't watch the whole thing, is this is probably going to be my favorite thing I've heard this year, whether it be a new album or something I've been exposed to, because it's rarely I can listen to every single song on the album and be like, I like everything. Because I know myself. I am quite picky. I'm quite opinionated. I'm stubborn. I am set in my ways kind of a person. I know myself. I know my strengths and my weaknesses. But here, everything is absolutely great. And I'm more excited now. The reason I did this whole kind of a reaction / review thing is I wanted to be more prepared to know what Be'lakor is all about if I'm going to be interviewing them. And I need to pay respect to them by listening to a full album. And I thought it'd be nice for you to experience it with me as I did the reaction. But after listening to this more, I think I've already become a fan. And I'm still going to react to a bunch of more songs on this channel because I want you guys to have that sharing experience with me. But at the same time, I'm going to do a lot more now because I really want to get into that discography. I know they have a new album coming out soon, which I will review on this channel as well. What else is there to say? The only thing, my only nitpick was the production. I thought the guitars and the piano sounded great. But I thought the drums needed, I wanted a little bit more impact from the drums. And it's probably most likely due to budget. Maybe they didn't have the budget to really get the crispiest possible production. Maybe it was a slightly creative choice to keep it slightly more raw and not overproduced. I'm not a music producer. I'm not a music technician. I am not a musician myself. I am just an avid fan of music. And from all my experience of listening to the music that I have listened to, I felt like the drums just need to be slightly more impactful because the guitar sounded so beautiful. The bass sounded great. The piano was front and center, which I think is very important because in other bands, I believe they put the piano a little bit too far back. So you really have to kind of nitpick and listen to pick it up, where here it's really one of the major instruments. Something I didn't get into is the lyrics. And that's usually the way I listen to music. I listen to the music first, I get into the lyrics on the next consecutive listens, and then I check out like live footage and music videos and everything like that. But if I have to give it, I usually don't like I've given ratings on this channel, but typically I don't really rate things. It's more of like I liked it or I didn't, phenomenal or not, something like that. I would just leave it at this point that this is a must listen to any melodic death metal, any progressive metal fan, period. It's a must listen. And the fact that this band is not bigger than what it is right now, I think it's a criminal, absolutely criminal, because there's bands out there that get more recognition that in my eyes they're not on this level. They're not on this level of musicianship, in my opinion. So I'm just that much more excited for Saturday. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction with me. You enjoyed this review with me. I would love for you guys to let me know if this is your favorite Be'lakor album, if there's another album you like more. And let me know down below what you thought of this whole reaction review. Let's have a nice discussion together, guys. Peace out, keep it metal, enjoy the rest of your day.